My name's Andrea Miller, and I'm a registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator here at Community Hospitals and Wellness Centers in Bryan. I'd like to welcome all of our live audience and viewers at home to Live It Bite Size. And I'm very excited today because we have a very special guest who traveled a very long way to be with us, all the way from the North Pole, Santa Claus.
Happy to be here.
So, since Christmas is obviously in the air, we are going to be making a healthy Christmas platter today with some healthier treats for the holidays. So today we are going to be making chocolate-covered pomegranate, some winter granola squares, and cookie dough bites. So we have a busy schedule ahead of us, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I told Santa I wish he would have brought some elves with him from the North Pole, because obviously we could all need an extra elf or two this time of year, right?
They're very busy right now building toys.
So you're saying I can't have one at my house?
You cannot have one at my house.
I was really hoping that I would get an elf for Christmas.
Mrs. Claus would be very upset.
I understand. All right. So anyways, we're going to do a couple of things to get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up our double boiler and get some water heating up to melt our chocolate. So I'm going to turn on our heat here. Maybe. There we go. We have heat. Okay. And I just have plain water that I'm going to pour into the bottom of a pot. You can buy double boilers, but you can also make them yourself with any type of pot and then a bowl that, sits inside of it. So we have a beautiful little pot here. I have a pretty big one that I'm using just so you can see better, but a smaller one like this with a smaller bowl would work fine too. So I'm going to put my bowl on top of there, and I'm just going to go ahead and dump my chocolate chips in right now just so they can start getting warm. And the second thing I'm going to do, so this is for our chocolate-covered pomegranates, and I'm going to do a step for another recipe here so it has some time to get started. For our cookie dough bites, we have some dates here. Some dates. And I'm going to add some water to them to get them soaking. Notice in all of our ingredients that we have up here, we do, oops, should have had Santa do this. Okay, we don't have any white refined sugar. So there's no white refined sugar going into these cookies. So that way, when Santa is over China delivering presents to all the boys and girls, these cookies are going to help you from feeling, the slump that you feel with a traditional.
They're much better than the fortune cookies I get.
All right. So we have our dates soaking and our chocolate warming up. So now we're going to get started with our feature piece of produce, because you can't come to a Live It presentation and not get, something about fruits or vegetables thrown at you. So today we're going to use a pomegranate. So I love pomegranates because they are super, super healthy, and they're the same color as Santa's suit. The same color as Santa's suit.
Vampires dress up in costumes. This is Santa's business suit.
Santa, do you eat pomegranates?
I love pomegranates.
Santa loves pomegranates, so that's why everybody should eat pomegranates, because Santa loves them. And they're also a very rich source of antioxidants. And I hope I don't mess this up. I've been practicing all day long. Punicic acid and punicollagen are the two phytochemicals or plant chemicals that are found in pomegranates, and they have a ton of benefits: antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. There's some preliminary research that shows that they can help fight prostate cancer and breast cancer. What else? Well, that's quite a bit of benefit. Heart health. We can't forget heart health. Super heart healthy for you. So lots of benefits. So the pomegranate can be kind of intimidating to use. So the first, we stand back, Santa, because the arils in here tend to get juicy. So you don't eat the skin of the pomegranate. You're going to remove that. So I'm just going to start. There's a little like floury top to the pomegranate. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to slice the top off. There's lots of different ways to cut a pomegranate and to remove the arils, they're called. They're little tiny seeds in the pomegranate. But I'm going to show you how I usually do it. But feel free to, get on YouTube and, find your preference for removing arils.
Santa's advice, it is not an apple. You'll only make that mistake once.
Yes, the skin is inedible. So the part you eat is actually on the inside. I cut the bottom off. I think it's helpful. Try not to cut, again, into the juicy red parts because you will get your Santa suit dirty or whatever
Redder.
suit you are wearing. So I cut the top and bottom off, and then I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to score in several different places. And while I'm going to multitask, I'm going to give my chocolate a stir. Santa, yes,
Chocolate.
That's why I have a sous chef.
Oh, oh, oh.
Santa's going to keep an eye on my chocolate and keep it from burning. Use the right side of the knife here. So I'm just going to score it in several different places because I want to pull it apart. So I like to, like the size of an apple slice, kind of, but it's not an apple. Don't confuse it with an apple. So I'm just kind of scoring it. And you don't want to cut down very deep, just like a 1/16 of an inch. Because again, you don't, very, very small. You don't want to break any of those arils. Okay, so now's the fun part, breaking it open. You want to do this over a big bowl. A lot of people will fill a bowl up with water. I prefer not to. I find that I always hold it over the water anyways, but if you prefer, holding it underwater will keep the juice from splattering onto your lovely clothes. So there, I just broke it open. You can see some of them started falling out as I cracked it open. And I like to just tear it into smaller pieces to make it easier to work with. And you can see they're just kind of all falling out. And then I just simply start to roll the seeds off. And you don't eat the white part either, the white little pith.
Santa is a world traveler.
The white pith is not edible either. So that looks great, actually. So I'm going to actually turn off the heat. But the cool thing about a double boiler is it's still hot. The water is still hot, so it's going to continue to warm the chocolate, which we're going to use here in a second. So it can take some time and patience and practice to get all of the little tiny seeds in here. So you can kind of see the bright red seeds. They're very, very juicy, and they're also crunchy. You can eat the crunchy part inside. So I've seen people. So we need about 2/3 of a cup for the recipe that we're doing today. Again, I'm just going to kind of do a couple here to give you the idea. So I think that's good enough for what we're going to use them for. So I'm just going to set the rest aside here for a second. Oh, there's some really good. These are really good pomegranates, by the way. And to pick a pomegranate, you want to pick one that doesn't have any bruises on it. You don't want a squishy pomegranate because that means the little arils inside are broken. And you want it to be heavy for its size. So you want it to kind of feel heavy. That's a good, juicy pomegranate. Okay. So we have our pomegranate ready to go. And actually, Santa, I'm going to have you come back over to the chocolate. So these are delicious. And you can use any type of chocolate here, but I would prefer dark chocolate because it has less sugar and more antioxidants in it.
Hot chocolate?
You can use, sure. With the leftovers, sure, add some milk, make some hot chocolate. So I'm just going to have you take a little tiny bit of chocolate and put it in the bottom of a couple of the mini muffin cups. So we have a mini muffin tray and then mini muffin cups inside to make them easy to eat. So we'll have him do 4. That looks good. And then I'm going to kind of spread out the chocolate on the bottom. So this is just a 2-ingredient recipe. So this would be super easy to put together, last minute if you're struggling to think of something to take to a family gathering. This might be the ticket. So then I'm going to take just a spoonful of the pomegranate arils and put right on top of the chocolate. Awesome. And then you have two options here. You can either put another layer of chocolate on top, or you can drizzle chocolate on top if you're so inclined. I'm more of a layer person. I'm a quick and easy type of gal. So go ahead and I'll have, Santa put just another layer on top.
A Reese's pomegranate cup, if you will.
There you go, exactly. That looks great. The ones that you have in front of you, our audience has samples to take home. They have a chocolate drizzle. Now the chocolate drizzle is going to be lower in calories, so and you'll have the recipe stretch a little bit further. The recipe that we have, that you have in front of you, makes 16 servings, and that uses all of the 2/3 cup of pomegranate seeds and the full 1 cup of chocolate. So, but you can stretch it out and make more, maybe 20 or 25 by using less chocolate and smaller portions. So again, the idea of this Live It is bite-sized, so we want them to be like small little bits. Personally, if I see a tray of these 3 goodies in front of me, I'm not going to be able to resist trying each one of them. So that's why they're small portions. So, and Santa, I mean, when you are traveling from house to house and you have all those cookies that the little boys and girls have left out for you, I mean, you probably want small portions at each house too.
Please.
Because how do you eat so many cookies in one night?
I feed a lot to the reindeer.
Do you? So, and I'm sure after that the reindeer have to go on a diet, huh? The rest of the year. All right, so that's it. That's, 1 recipe, 2 ingredients. Let's get started on our next recipe. I'm going to set this aside somewhere. Just start throwing things on the ground. Hopefully that's not too... Yes. Thank you. Mm-hmm. All right. So for the next recipe, we're going to do our granola squares. Set these aside too. Okay, so for this recipe, I'm not going to show you a step, I'll just describe it to you. We have oats, sunflower seeds, and almonds. They've already been toasted for us. So when you're doing this at home, you're going to put your untoasted oats, almonds, and sunflower seeds on a cookie sheet. Put them in the oven, I believe it's 350 for about 12 minutes until they're lightly golden brown, and then you're going to add them all together. So these have already been toasted. So I'll have Santa, you can dump them in. So we have 2 cups of rolled oats, and preferably the thick cut. You don't want to use the instant oats. Then we have a 1/2 cup of sunflower seeds and a full cup of almonds. And we can go ahead and add in the cranberries as well. So cranberries, the same color as Santa's suit again, so some red in there. And then to sweeten it, we are going to use raisins. So actually, Santa, you're going to help with this too. Let's get the top off of, there we go, twist. And we're going to dump a cup of raisins into the food processor. Get a spoon here. This will work. All right. And then we're going to pulse the raisins until they form a fine, like a chunky paste, I guess. And actually, you can probably just turn it on. There you go. Keep going. For some reason, we're not forming a chunky paste.
Very well.
There we go. All right, now we're in business. Good enough. All right. So we have kind of a chunky paste here, and you kind of know when they're forming a chunky paste because as you saw, it turned into a ball instead of, individual raisins. So I will take this off. You're actually going to warm this up on the stove mixed with some of the other ingredients in the recipe. So try your best to get this chunky paste out. Now, since we're making all 3 of these and we're using similar ingredients for our cookie dough bites, we actually, is a blade in there? Yep, okay. You can actually save a step and you don't actually have to wash your food processor if you're doing all of these in one, cooking session. So we have our cup of raisin paste in there. That's going to add a lot of sweetness to the recipe. And then we're adding 1/3 cup of maple syrup. Isn't that what elves eat? In the movie Elf, that's what Elf likes, right? The maple syrup.
His name is Buddy.
I'm sorry, Buddy. That's what Buddy likes, right? All right, so then we have 1/4 cup of peanut butter. All right. Santa, I'll have you grab me the salt over here, and we need 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So the salt helps to bring out some of the sweetness, but if you're on a low salt diet, you wouldn't have to add the salt. Okay, so now we're going to turn on the heat again. And you're just going to kind of melt the ingredients together. I think I'm going to switch to a spoon. All right, we're melting. Slowly. While that's melting, we can move on to our next recipe. So we'll get our food processor reset up.
I don't think Santa knows how to work this one.
All right. There we go.
You will be very happy on Christmas. Thanks for looking out for me.
So am I getting my elf?
We'll talk about a lease.
All right. All right. So for our cookie dough bites, actually, I usually don't make that sound. It must be Santa. Santa brings out the best in me.
It's the sound of being jolly.
Right.
Say it with me. Ho, 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 ho.
I need some practice. We might not move on to our next one because this is actually heating up really fast. All right. So we're melting this all together, and that's going to help it blend into the oat mixture a little bit better. All right. I told you I wasn't going to be able to stop smiling, because who can stop smiling when Santa's in the room?
Mrs. Claus.
I'm sure that's not true. All right, so that looks like it's all melted together. We'll turn off our heat. That's the last time we're going to use our heat today. So I'm going to pour that into the oat mixture. And then Santa, if you want to stir it together, we'll let Santa stir. So again, we have some maple syrup and raisins in this recipe that are adding the sweetness. These are kind of like granola bars. So I have on your recipe, they're cut into really small portions, again, because the theme today is bite size. Because during the holidays, we have so many goodies in front of us. Sometimes we just want a bite of something sweet. We just want a bite of the goodies. We don't want the whole piece of pie or the big piece of cake. So this way you can try a little bit of everything, or maybe you do want the whole piece of cake. No. Okay.
I'm agreeing with you.
Okay. So So it's a pretty sticky mixture here, but it's looking good. We have a pan over here that I'll grab. We have, I believe this is a 9 by 13, and again, they're going to be kind of thin granola bars, but if you wanted to use a smaller pan and make them thicker, cut them in larger pieces, you can, do whatever you want. So we're going to go ahead and dump that into our pan.
Mostly. The table gets a little.
And then I'm going to have Santa just press the mixture down with the back of the spoon, which is kind of tricky because, again, it's pretty sticky. And that looks great. So these actually go in the freezer for about 20 minutes. And then when they're set and firm, you just use your little parchment paper handles and lift out the whole cookie granola bar. And then you use a big chef knife to slice it into small portion sizes. So, and the same with the chocolate covered pomegranate. I forgot to mention, you want to put that in the refrigerator to set the chocolate, and it'll take 15 to 20 minutes or so before the chocolate's set. Both of these recipes, since you're using a lot of fresh ingredients and you're not baking them, you want to store them in the refrigerator or freezer once they're done. All right, so let's move on to my favorite recipe. I guess I can't pick my favorite recipe. I love these all so much. I started making this next one for my husband because he's kind of naughty and he eats the raw cookie dough. He loves cookie dough and batter of any kind. Like, he will eat Bisquick batter, and it drives me crazy. He doesn't even ask what's in it. He'll just stick his finger in and mow down.
I'll bring him Play-Doh for Christmas. He'll learn.
So, because eating cookie dough isn't all that safe because there's a couple health risks associated with it. We all think of raw eggs and salmonella, but actually a new one that most people don't know about is actually flour can be contaminated with E. coli because animals are in fields and, they need to, well, you know what animals do. So,
I have 8 reindeer, I know.
So, wheat is a grain, and when we plow our fields, it can be contaminated with the bacteria from the animals, and it gets ground, and generally flour is not cooked, so flour can be contaminated with E. coli, and usually when we cook the flour, we eliminate that risk factor. But if we're eating raw dough with that raw flour and raw eggs, we put ourselves at risk for getting salmonella and E. coli. So this is a perfectly safe cookie dough that you can feel free to indulge in completely raw. So I started making it for my husband and for my kids so that they can experience the pleasure of, eating cookie dough right out of the bowl. So for this, we are going to use oats again. And again, I'm not going to bother cleaning the food processor because there's just raisins in there and they're just going to add some sweetness to our mixture. So we have oats, unsweetened coconut, and that's 3/4 cup of oats, 1/2 cup of unsweetened coconut flakes, and 1/2 cup of raw unsalted almonds. And we'll put our food processor top back on and process that, pulse it or, yep, and keep going until it forms a, all right, we'll go a little bit more. Maybe we need to move into the second chorus of Jingle Bells. All right. All right, that looks good. So it's a
Really bad at this.
all right, Santa. All right. So it's a fine, it kind of looks like maybe sand. You can actually leave that right in there. We're gonna keep using it. Oh no. Santa.
Naughty.
All right. All right. So now we're going to add the goodies to it. So before I soaked the dates in water, so I added a 1/4 cup of water to the dates, and it almost makes the water kind of turn syrupy and the dates get soft. So this is our only sweetener that's going into our cookie dough bites, so we're not adding any refined sugar. And you know, dates still have a lot of carb and a lot of naturally occurring sugar, but they're also very nutrient rich. They have a lot of fiber in them. They're a great source of potassium. So they're really good for us, actually. And you know, compared to sugar, sugar is an empty calorie. It doesn't have any, you know, vitamins or minerals, or only, you know, very small amounts in the refined sugar. So we're adding nutrients and sweetness to our cookie dough bites here. And then we have a 1/4 cup, or not, oh, sorry, 2 tablespoons, not a 1/4 cup, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter and 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And then we're going to put our lid back on. Oh, I have it, sorry.
You should keep it away from me.
And you're going to process that. Uh-oh. There we go. And it's going to form a dough. And that looks good. All right. And then I'm going to grab my bowl. And I'm going to scoop it, the dough into the bowl. That blade, there we go. Okay, we're good. There's some left in there, but we're good enough. And then, so then we're going to add, so there is probably some refined sugar in here, but we're going to add some dark chocolate chips. So that's the goodie that's going into the dough.
Get
all of it. And this is 1/3 cup. But feel free to, you know, some people think 1/3 cup. The original recipe called for 1/2 cup, and the mean dietitian that I am, I made them cut back to 1/3.
Wise is the word you're looking for. Wise dietitian.
So, but actually 1/2 cup was just too many chocolate chips. It was hard to form into the ball. So I cut back to 1/3. But for my kids, when I make this for them, I probably cut back even further, and just have a little bit of the chocolate chips in there. So the fun part about this cookie dough, you know, again, I have little ones at home. And this cookie dough, again, since it's perfectly safe and really nutritious, actually, I feed it to my kids for breakfast sometimes. So my 2-year-old's walking around with like a little bite-sized ball, and he's like, I'm eating cookie dough. You know, he doesn't know it's healthy. So he doesn't really know what the real cookie dough is, but. So, all right, so that looks great. So now, Santa, if you can grab that platter over there, it has a little bit of parchment paper. I'll clean up some of this stuff. And then you roll them into little tiny balls. So you can have Santa help with this. And I'll probably make elf-size balls, and Santa will maybe make Santa-size North Pole. Is that a single portion? Right? Okay.
Remember, if they're smaller, I can eat more of them.
That's right. Santa was showing me his stir stick that he brought. He said that was the elf-size stir stick at the North Pole. So.
It's not actually a North Pole. That is just my candy cane.
All right. So there's a couple of the cookie dough balls. Santa can keep on at it, making the cookie dough balls, but that's that's it. And the cookie dough balls will go into the refrigerator again until they're set. And they can also be stored in the freezer. Some people I've heard like to store them in the freezer and crumble them up and stir them into vanilla ice cream to make your homemade cookie dough ice cream. But again, all of these are super healthy Christmas treats that the whole family can enjoy, and you can enjoy them for breakfast as well. So the cookie dough balls and the granola bars would make a great breakfast for your kids too, or adults. So thank you so much, Santa, for coming all the way from the North Pole to join me today. You did an excellent job, and I'm just honored that you're here. So
I'll be back in about 25 days.
All right. So, and thank you to our audience for coming as well. And hopefully you can join us next time for Live It Frozen.